Welcome back to another episode of Broke Up, Not Broken. I'm your host, Jamie Lima, and founder of Allegiant Divorce Solutions, where we help people prepare for, navigate, and recover financially from divorce. This podcast is your one-stop shop for mastering your life and your finances throughout the entire divorce process. In today's episode, we're joined by Jesse Coody, who is the founder of and CEO of Coody Company Financing, a company dedicated to offering creative financing solutions for aspiring homeowners, often overlooked by traditional lenders. With years of experience as a real estate investor and landlord, Jesse launched his company to help self-employed professionals, foreign nationals, and those with limited credit achieve homeownership. His faith-led, family-run business is built on the values of resilience, family, and the belief that everyone deserves the opportunity to own a home. Today, we're going to delve into how their innovative financing solutions can aid individuals going through life transitions such as divorce, ensuring they can secure a home without traditional lending hurdles. So grab a cup of coffee or your beverage of choice, buckle up, and let's once again get you financially and personally empowered. Jesse, man, it's so great to have you here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for the invite, and certainly looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, man. And so this is something that comes up in a lot of conversations that we have with our clients, right? So people going through a divorce, there's definitely some financial challenges that go along with that. A lot of folks are going from a dual income family scenario to now a single income family scenario. And I'm sure you deal with all this a lot of the time. So I think this is going to be an amazing conversation, hopefully really, really fruitful and beneficial for our listeners. So how did you get into, you've been a landlord and a real estate investor and doing all these amazing things. What I guess drove you to kind of change tack a little bit to help them, I wouldn't say the less unfortunate, but those that are challenged to be able to have the benefit of homeownership?
Yeah, actually, it was a personal experience of mine that kind of led me down this path. My wife and I were looking for a home, and we kind of ran across some of this owner finance, and they really didn't offer anything other than just you had to pick the home that they had. So for us, we thought, people probably don't want that home, and they want to pick the home that they have dreamed of. So we found a way and created a way for that to be possible.
That's awesome. As a business owner myself, I ran into this problem myself. We were actually looking to buy some land as an investment, and man, just trying to go jumping through those hurdles, trying to get to secure that loan as a business owner. Oof, that was tough.
Yeah. Yes, it can be tough. It was probably just raw land. When you had raw land, that's even more difficult. I'm sure you feel like you're having to give your firstborn, right, to be able to do it.
Well, she's a little bit of a problem child. I'm only kidding. She's amazing, but I'm joking. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It was pretty gnarly. We were actually in a situation right now where we're trying to sell our home, buy another property to be able to build on in the future. We're in California, and the property we're looking at was actually in Georgia, and the whole thing fell apart because our house fell out of escrow, and my wife and I just decided, this is crazy. This is a weird environment right now, and let's just kind of hold out and see how things go. So we're going to pick this back up in the beginning of the year. I'm much more educated at this point about the whole process, but yes. I can imagine, those people that are going through a divorce and they're sitting here going they have the only source of income they have is maybe alimony, some child support, and a new job because they had to start a new life with a new career, what have you. It can be super challenging.
And Jamie, are you seeing that the biggest challenge is a lot of time the wives, the women that come out of the divorce and have the largest challenge with maybe they were dependent on their husband, maybe they had the W-2, the wife they were the entrepreneur, vice versa. Maybe the husband did all of the finances for the home and they came out. Are you guys seeing a lot of that?
That's primarily what we see. Yeah.
Yes.
So listeners, this has nothing to do with me being sexist or anything. And you've heard me say this in other shows, but 95% of the clients we work with at this stage are mostly women who are stay-at-home moms or have been stay-at-home moms. And now they're trying to sort it all out. And I think they reach out a lot of times and they listen to this show because they are in that situation and they want the education and they're not afraid to ask for the help. So dudes, if you're out there and you're in a similar situation, it is okay to ask for help. We're here to help as people like Jesse out there. But yeah, to answer your question, that's primarily what we see for exactly what you just mentioned.
Yes, thank you for clearing that up. We definitely we see a lot of that as well. So that's where we love to help, right? We love to kind of divide that out, and they have a great financial situation that they're coming into, right? Maybe they're selling their house through the divorce, but they just don't quite know the next step. And I'm sure that's where you help out as well, right? With your financial advice and where
Exactly.
to take
We would really
it.
partner with you, as the lending professional. We work with a lot of realtors, and we work with everybody. We're very, very collaborative. We'll work with attorneys. We work with existing financial planners. I'm a certified financial planner by trade. I've been doing that work for 20 years. But we are, if you're a financial advisor out there listening to this, we have no desire to take your clients away from you. We just want to be there, a resource to help you support them. But we'll work with realtors and accountants and you name it, just to try to help people navigate some of these decisions. So let's just use a little like example case study here, right? So we have typical client is now considering the next step in the next chapter of their life. They've maybe finalized the divorce or on the cusp of finalizing it. We're involved. We've given them some guidance as far as like, this is what your budget is, and this is what your future cash flow is going to look like, and so on. Like, what is the next step with you? Like, kind of walk me through that. If I came knocking on your door and said, hey, I have a client here for you that needs to get some help, what does that look like?
So we have a great process that my team has put together for us, and that process is a lot of automated process. For a new client, it would be an application, would be their first process. You immediately get a pre-approval. Our pre-approval, when you're pre-approved, it's just a verification process after that, right? It's a few documents. It's our predominant factor to approve someone is their DTI. That is their debt to income. As long as it's is something that can be verified, and we're creative in that as well. So it's not just a W-2 situation. It can be bank statements. It can be a lot of different ways that we do that. Once you go through that, we help through the entire. So we partner with realtors also. So I don't want to exclude them, but we also help with the process of finding a home if you don't have a realtor. And we help through the lending process, take them all the way through title, and we walk up and hand them the keys. So we love to take them from all the way from A to Z of the process.
What do you do about those people that are like, the credit's been, I wouldn't say decimated, but definitely impacted by divorce? Because a lot of the women that we work with, again, not to be sexist, but this is what we see a lot. There's a lot of financial abuse that goes on, right? To your point earlier, they're not involved in the financial aspects of their existing relationship. They're not. Maybe they're even locked out of some of the accounts with usernames and passwords, so they can't get access to that information. And a lot of them at the same time, the credit is hurt through the process of divorce because they don't really know what they own. They don't know what they owe. It can be a little bit of a disaster. So how do you handle something like that? Is it more of, let's just triage them and see where they are now and maybe give them some guidance as far as things they need to do to improve that scenario? Or can you just like work with it as is?
So yeah, great question. Thank you. That's one of the things that we kind of pride ourselves with is the credit. We are not worried about your credit. As long as there has not been a foreclosure in the last 5 years or a bankruptcy in the last 2 years, we're not worried about your credit. We pull credit just to verify debt. That's all we do. Credit is not a factor in an approval process with us.
You have to tell me more about this, but so let's go a little bit deeper on that. I'm not really sure I understand that because I've bought 5 or 6 homes in my life, and I've refinanced them a couple of times. So I've gone through this exercise, call it 10 times, and every time it feel like it was predicated on your credit and credit score.
That is traditional. So it's kind of hard to get over that hump with just kind of the mental mindset, right? That we don't bother with credit. We've had people come in with a 500 credit score. We're not concerned with that. Again, we're looking for no bankruptcies, no foreclosures, right? Within a certain period. Your credit does not matter at that point. We're looking at consistency with pay. and that you can afford the home. It's kind of like entrepreneurs, right? Even if you've been through a recent divorce, you're an entrepreneur, you no longer have a spouse that has a W-2 that was relied upon. Well, you have an issue, because entrepreneurs, we're very fortunate to, as you may know, tax code gives us options, right? And depending on which you choose, gives you a way to buy a home, or sometimes maybe not. So we look at kind of reality of what is your income, what is your current situation. Life happens, right? Good people sometimes are in a bad situation. I'm sure, Jamie, you're dealing with that quite a bit in the business that you're in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, some of the most amazing people that, are out there are just dealing with some not so good stuff.
Yes. And when that happens, how do you help them, right? How do you direct and guide them in the right ways?
Yeah, I mean, our situation is probably very much like yours. I mean, sometimes we're very much a financial coach in many ways, right? There's a lot of financial coaches out there, and TikTok gurus and all the other stuff that there's really no certification for a financial coach, just for the record. But so anybody can call themselves a financial coach, but I feel like that's what we do sometimes, and that's kind of what why I was asking the question earlier about, like, what steps and what tips and tricks do you have? Because if we can understand that, me personally, if I can understand that, then as we're walking clients through this experience and they're trying to figure out what the next step is, do I buy, do I rent? If we know, like, here are some things you need to be considering and things that you can do, which I'm starting to glean from this conversation here, now we put them in a much better position moving forward, right? And we can help coach them and keep them on that right path moving forward. That way, when they come to you as the lender, they're prepared, they're ready to go, and they know what to expect. So I think this is well, I'm so glad we're having this conversation selfishly for myself.
And Jamie, a quick question for, in your path, you talk about rent or buy. What has been your experience through all the homes that you have purchased over time and their value? What's been your experience?
Well, I mean, I feel like it depends on the day of the week, man. I mean, I kind of, and again, I've been a financial planner for 20 years, and I feel like we go through these phases of the economic cycle where it's more advantageous to buy, it's more advantageous to rent. But I recognize that, our clients and people that are listening out there can't necessarily flip-flop one with the other, over, every 3 or 4 years, depending on what the market's giving us from an economic perspective. One of the things, if we're related to divorce, one of the things that I encourage people to do is a lot of people that we're working with are concerned about, do I keep the home? Do I not keep the home? Do I want to sell it and take the cash and go buy another property? Or do I want to just, do I want to try to stay where we are for the sake of the kids or for the sake of my emotional well-being or what have you? So we'll walk them through that experience and that exercise, and we can actually mathematically help them understand, like, can you even keep the house or not? Because when you go from that dual income family down to single income family, it's not always advantageous or practical to keep the house. So marriage is very much like, I'm sorry, let me take it back. The death of a marriage is very much like the death of a family member. So I always tell people, and I've said this for the years I've been doing this, when you're in that phase of life, when you've lost something so important to you, you should not be making any significant financial decisions for a year. We're not buying a car, we're not buying a boat, we're not buying a house, we're not doing any of those things. So I think it may be advantageous for a lot of people to sell the property, take that cash, put it aside, take a beat, rent for a year, and then decide what their next move is. But at the same time, I recognize as a homeowner myself, and we've owned rental properties, and we have an Airbnb that we rent out. That's been incredibly successful. So I'm a big believer in owning property as well.
Jamie, I think that is extremely wise advice, to not make a big decision based off of a very big event that's happened in your life. I agree. I have personally been through divorce, and I actually did exactly what you said, and I was very thankful for that. I can make a much better decision once everything kind of levels out and you get a grasp on what has just happened and you understand your current position. Sometimes staying in that house, that has a lot of memories in it too, right? So there's a lot of other side effects, if we will, I guess, no lack of a better word, that come with staying in that house, right? Age of children, there's so many factors that come into divorce, but usually kind of getting away from that situation definitely helps. That's what I've found in my experience. Now moving on to owning a home, it's a great thing just simply from the equity standpoint, right? You will gain. Homes traditionally go up 6 to 8% annually. That's just kind of what they do. The market's done that year after year. Take out 2020 and 21. Those are unfair. Those are not real gains, but that's very wise advice. Stay away from it from about a year.
Yeah, it can be. It's really tough to make these decisions when you're not in the right frame of mind. And if you make those decisions and let the emotions get involved, this as well as I know, as I do, that you're probably going to make a decision that you're going to live to regret, and who wants that?
Yes.
So one of the things that I picked up when I was doing some research on you and your company is you have some experience in this in owner financing. I'm not sure. I think I know what it is, but I'm not sure I completely understand. So how does that, what does that look like, and how might people that are going through a divorce benefit from that option?
So the owner finance, what happens is we buy your home. So you find a home and you choose that home. We negotiate it. We buy the home, the first close. So there's 2 closings. First closing would be us buy the home. We turn and sell that to you, the home buyer, the end buyer, 7 days later. And that's just through state mandate in Texas. We operate in Texas for the most part. We are planning on spreading out to other states very soon, probably within a couple of months. But we sell that home back to you. This is all done through title. Everything is, mortgage servicer. So it's set up like your everyday loan. There's nothing different about it. We're basically your bank at that point.
Interesting. How would you even do, where did that come from? Is that do you have experience doing that in the past?
We, a little bit of experience of doing that in the past. Most of my experience was in landlord, residential rentals, some commercial rentals. It was just us kind of going through the process of looking at some owner finance homes. And we thought, we can do this on a much bigger scale as far as to help a lot more people, because we were seeing people struggle with, I don't want that home. That's not the house I want. I want the house over here in this neighborhood, right? So how do we bring that to other people? How do we help other people to be able to get the home they want without the conventional financing? Are there any risks that people need to be aware of with that? Because I thought I understood this. I now realize that I do not and did not understand that. So what are some of the risks that might be involved? There's no downfall. There's no risk on it as far as there's no more risk on that than there would be a traditional loan. It's going through the same process. It truly is. It's just 2 closes on the home.
It's pretty incredible. And you said you're in Texas now. We have a lot of cases in Texas, and the beauty of the work that we do, listeners for that out there again, we work in all 50 states. The beauty of the work that we do is we just work on the math side of things. So math is the math. 2 + 2 = 4 in California, and Texas, and Nevada, and Arizona. So we're in a good spot on our end.
That is so cool. That is wonderful. And I do want to back up on that a little bit, Jamie. Is maybe you would ask a question. What would be some of the things to watch out for? Were you asking specifically with us, or just owner finance in general?
I guess owner financing in general. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not necessarily picking on you as far as would this be a good idea or not a bad idea to work with you on this, but in general, because for those people that don't know about this option, I mean, I've done a seller buyback scenario before, or rent back scenario where we were selling our home and buying another one, but our place wasn't quite sold yet. We were waiting for that escrow to close, and we wanted to buy the other one. The timing was off, so we had to do a rent back scenario for about a month. That's the only experience I ever have in that. So in dealing with a buyer or seller of property like that. So this is completely different.
This is different. Yes, the rent back is just extending the period that maybe you can stay in the home, or the sellers can stay in the home, right, before you take ownership of it. This is This is different. You actually, when the second close happens, they move in, the home buyer moves in. And some of the things that I would suggest, and this is also why we created our program, is because there are some downfalls to owner finance. Ours is set up to go through title. You need to make sure if you're doing owner finance, you need to have the paperwork drawn up properly. It needs to be legal, it needs to go through title, and it needs to be a mortgage servicer. So you're not requiring or relying on the person that has the home to actually pay the note, right? You need it to be formalized in an actual process and a company doing it. Make sure it's not a backdoor. There's a lot of these backdoor that someone has a home, they're selling it to someone else, and they're doing a wrap, and there's just a lot of intricacies in there that could come back and bite the home buyer. And we've just made sure we've eliminated those so there are no situations that's going to happen to our end buyers.
Okay. This is what I would call the carte blanche segment of our discussion, and this may actually open up some additional questions that I have for you. Is there anything that I didn't ask so far that I should be asking that would be important for our listeners to hear from you?
Not that I can think of.
Is there anything in your experience, so you've obviously dealt with a lot of the divorcees, people that are going through a divorce.
Yes.
In your line of work, right? And we talked about some of the options that are available to them. We talked about some of the aspects with credit. We've talked anything else they need to be thinking about that even, and this goes back to me asking selfishly, frankly, because I learn so much in these conversations. So I love to keep learning from brilliant people like yourself about these types of things, because no doubt next week I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to need some of this information. I don't know why it just happens like that. So
maybe something on the side of what type of what should I expect as far as the cost, right? Things like that for them to be able to pre-plan that year that they're going to wait. Maybe that transitional period. So what should I expect? What should we expect as far as the cost on this? I don't know if we go into that, but does that prepare them for it? That's up to you. I don't need that.
That would be helpful for me to know. And I'm sure the listeners would be helpful for them to know as well, because I don't know if this is a $2,000 cost or a $20,000 cost to work with someone like yourself, and what closing costs, especially with the owner financing component of that. I don't know what that scenario costs. Yes. But from a financial planning perspective, it would be helpful, because when we're starting to think through, what is my next step? One of the big things we work with people on is their budget. And do we need to be able to budget for these expenses?
Yes, that was a question I was going to have for you. Do you help them throughout their whole budget for a pre-planned period?
We try to budget out for, this is going to sound crazy, but we try to budget 3 years worth of cash flow.
Okay. Yes.
So when we were looking at, and I think that would be helpful for you as the lender to know, right? Here's what they have coming in, here's what they have going out, and this is what we're projecting over the next 3 years. I'd venture to guess that's going to be helpful in the whole lending scenario.
Right. Yes, that's huge. That would be a big help, because that kind of understands, because when we run the application, we ask about DTI, right? So when we ask about that DTI, the debt to income, we are looking at what is their income. It gives them a purchase power. The purchase power is how much of a house can you buy, right? That may be a different situation than what you currently were just in. You don't have the dual income anymore. So we have to understand, what can we purchase? Where can we find that? So yeah, that's a big help to us.
Do you consider all forms of income? Because alimony is a big one, right?
We do. Yes, we consider all forms of income. And we get creative on that. Again, some people have cash out that they get income, right? Some it's alimony. It is a big form of income. In addition to that, we also have a homebuyer guide that is on our website, which is phenomenal. My team has put together a very comprehensive, it's like 20 or 30 some odd pages that really walks them through the steps well.
Are there any particular steps that are different than traditional lending scenarios, right? Because for us, it was a bunch of bank statements, a bunch of brokerage account statements, your retirement account statements, all the usual suspect stuff. Is there anything that would be different with this more unconventional lending that people need to be prepared with?
So There's an RMLO process that's kind of separated, where you probably just kind of went through that from the very beginning and weren't so much a part of the RMLO process. That's a residential mortgage lending under originator. That's basically, that goes through the steps of verifying the documents. Everything else is pretty similar to the conventional type loan, but it just, if we're talking about people that have never actually gone through the steps, right? Maybe it was their spouse that did most of the work on that side. So this really helps to set someone up that's maybe not been through all of it.
Got it. Well, I'm not sure if we ever answered the question about cost. What is cost for something like this?
So cost that you should expect are down payments. We do about a 5 to 10% down payment. We try to keep it between 5 and 10%. Closing costs, fees, everything that you normally would in a conventional, we try to keep that about 7 to 8%. So all in, on low end, about a 12 to 13%, high end 20%. But that's including your down payment, right? So if you have a 10% down payment and other things, depending on what your cost of your home is, right? The higher that cost, this kind of drives it up a little bit just because of insurance, taxes. But 12 to 18% is pretty common.
12 to 18%. Okay. And
Yes.
I presume that's state specific, right? Some states are going to be more expensive than others.
That is correct. Yes.
Got it. And so how do people contact you and get in touch with you if they need more information about this? Just through the website?
So you can reach us at codyandco.com. It has all of our information on there to reach out to us at our email, our phone number, and our application is on there as well.
Love it. I cannot tell you how important that is to someone who just went through this experience. Again, for the the dozenth time in my life, I think we went through. I think I applied it. Here's the other thing. Let me just if you and your the powers that be in the lending community can make this happen, this would be amazing. Where if you just filled out one darn application and that information was stored somewhere, and then we could send that information to you as lenders. Because even in my experience on buying this, the land was $100,000, 2 tiny acres in Georgia. You would think that I was buying Trump Tower.
Yes.
With all the information that I had to get, and then every bank I applied at 5 banks because as you know, land is very, very nuanced, and one bank has an interest rate of 12%, the other one has an interest rate of 7%. You never know what you're going to get. But you can't find out what those rates are until you actually apply. So we went through the exercise 5 times. It was the worst weekend of my life because I spent the entire weekend, I felt like, applying for loans.
Yes. And we make it, that's where we kind of come in, and we were like, how do we simplify this process, right? The people, our clients that come to us, very commonly, they have already been through that process 9 times, right? And they keep getting told, no. And they're just kind of at their wits' ends. So how do we make that simple for them? It is a 12-step application. It's got 12 questions. You get a pre-approval within 2 minutes. So you do not have to go through what you just explained.
Love it, man. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing what I consider, and I'm sure our listeners do as well, some incredibly valuable insights into some of the creative and alternative financing solutions for those of us that are going through a divorce or have been through a divorce, are now on the next phase of our life. So for listeners that are out there, if you're driving, if you're not in a spot to jot this information down, don't worry. We're going to put in the show notes. We'll have all the links to Jesse's social media channels, his website. We'll put everything in there. So don't worry about jotting that down. But visit the website if you have questions about this stuff, and book some time to talk with him, because I think I've talked to dozens and dozens of professionals on this podcast, especially even on the real estate side of things. And this has just been fascinating. I learned a ton. So thanks so much for sharing all of that information with us today, Jesse. And remember, if you're navigating the financial uncertainties or seeking to plan for new living arrangements post-divorce, those of us here at Allegiant Divorce Solutions are available to help in all 50 states. Yes, again, all 50 states. Visit the website at allegiantds.com for expert advice and to schedule a complimentary and confidential consultation with us. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more discussions on making smart financial and life decisions. Until next time.